we'll do one more, and then we'll get into the unpleasantness. Okay.
I'd like to welcome you again to our study in the name of Yahweh the Christ to the white European men, women, and children and nations of the earth. It's been a little while, all right? But we're back. and many of you will be watching this on Arcodius on YouTube. Many will be watching it on DVD in your homes or wherever you're at, iPods or whatever else, all right? But we have a very concentrated presentation, a lecture today to share with you because it's needed to be told. It's needed to be told, and that's very important. I want to remind those of you who are thinking of attending the Feast of Tabernacles this fall to the White Racial Feast of Tabernacles. We'll be holding it on the second weekend of October, this October here in Michigan. You can get a hold of me or send me an email or whatever. And
So basically what he's saying is you can get a hold of me or you can get a hold of me.
If you're interested in coming and to attending.
Back is really
There's a lot of
bothering me
turmoil
these
in the land.
days.
Right.
America at this time is a big cooking pot. And the pot is starting to cook over, all right? There's a lot of dissension, and you can tell that the Jewish...
So, in July of 2016, I was living in LA. So my experience with like what was going on politically was colored by my being in Los Angeles. I didn't see a lot of Trump support. But I also was, I don't know. I didn't like Trump. I thought he could win because I knew how much conservatives hated Hillary. I was still surprised when it happened, but I don't know what the streets of Rhodes, Michigan were like in the summer of 2016, but streets of LA seems to be fine.
Control News is pushing this black movement of whatever it is, Black Lives Matter movement. You can tell without the Jewish Control News, they wouldn't have any notoriety whatsoever. And you can tell that the Jewish Control News is pushing this black movement of whatever it is, Black Lives Matter movement. You can tell without the Jewish Control News, they wouldn't have any notoriety whatsoever.
Right.
And of course, already they're visiting in the White House after the Dallas police were shot, 5 of them had killed and 7 more, 8 wounded in Dallas, Texas, just a week and a half ago. The leaders of the Black Lives Matter movement is already in the White House with the communist queer Barack.
There is zero evidence to suggest that Obama was or is gay, and there is even less evidence to suggest that he's a communist.
Hussein Obama, alias Barry Soetoro.
Hey, he got it right that time.
But we're
So-
going to discuss these things because it's not only America, though I will talk about America today. It's also a direct reflection of what's happening in white Europe as to the invaders, the mongrel invaders from North Africa and the Mideast and the different nations, not of our culture, into the nations, the white nations of Europe. And we'll dwell again on the traitors who are in control of those countries. Our presentation today is entitled Anarchy Today in the USA. I'm Dr. James P. Wickstrom,
Not a doctor.
P.O. Box 308, Linwood, Michigan, 48634, the US of A. You can watch my full presentations on Arcodius, Arcodeus on YouTube, or Arcodius Reloaded, a little typo here, Reloaded, 2 words, Reloaded, on YouTube. My blog site is www.jameswickstrom.com. My email is drjameswickstrom@gmail.com. It's Saturday, July 16, 2016. There is so much that is taking place. So many things that I have to share with you today. I haven't been with you for a while. We have to prepare for civil war. America's been in civil war for a long time. Many of you probably don't remember the Detroit riots, the Watts riots, and the burnings of other countries in the late 60s, early 70s. We'll touch on that just for a while today. You're in civil war in Sweden and Germany and the white nations of Europe. You're in civil war. You're in civil war in Canada and Australia and New Zealand. You were in civil war in South Africa until the communists, Jews, and the blacks of the National Congress, African Congress Nation, whatever they call themselves over there,
Apartheid.
the apartheid, overthrew South Africa as well as Rhodesia, which is now Zimbabwe.
No, it was Zimbabwe, and then it was Rhodesia.
The plan is to eradicate the white race off the earth. That is the total goal. That is the ultimate goal. When I talk about anarchy, I want you to understand what anarchy is in its fullness. It's not hard, but it's your right to understand what it is so the Jew communist news control factors don't give you a snow job, so you understand. Anarchy. It's a noun, anarchy. It means a state of disorder due to absence or non-recognition of authority. That's what they had in Dallas. That's what they're having in the Black Lives Matter movement, where they don't think they have to obey authority, that they can careen off and they can block interstates and highways and stop interstate movement of goods and traffic on the interstates or any highway. That's disturbing the peace, by the way.
Okay, here's a quick question. Which is more important? A truck with vegetables getting to the Walmart distribution center on time, or people's lives? This is I know it's a hard question. Those cabbages, cabbage lives matter, I guess. But I find this one not too difficult.
Paddy wagons should be brought in, cattle cars, whatever you need, 18-wheelers, throw them in the back, take them down, give them a $500 fine. They can't pay it, they stay in the hooskow. I don't care where you have the hooskow. Now, be in a state of disorder due to the absence or non-recognition of authority. And that's what you have with the Black Lives Matter. That's what you have with these Arab groups in Sweden and Germany, France and Italy and all over. Now, he must ensure public order in a country threatened with anarchy, lawlessness, mobocracy, revolution, insurrection, disorder,
Is he gonna get this
chaos, mayhem.
Oh my god. Okay. 1, he spelled chaos wrong. 2, he spelled mayhem wrong. An easy mistake. The Y and the T are right next to each other. But he didn't realize that he misspelled a word and he just read it as mathem, which is not a word and doesn't mean anything.
This is all forms of anarchy. The synonyms: turmoil. Conditions are dangerously ripe for anarchy. Antonyms: government, order, absence of government, and absolute freedom of the individual regarded as a political ideal. That is the Black Lives Matter movement. It is the radical
I don't really know what he's talking about.
anti-white cultural movement in all the white nations of Europe. Black Lives Matter movement as a political ideal. That is the Black Lives Matter movement. It is the radical anti-white cultural movement in all the white nations of Europe, being fostered upon us by the Jew media, traitors in the Congress and Senate of the United States, and right in the White House itself, financed by the Jew George Soros and his ilk. Remember, these movements cannot do anything without money.
That's right.
They cannot have any acclaim without the Jew-controlled news making them heroes, trying to degrade our police officers. I want to make something emphatically clear here. I have been one of the only voices in the United States of America for over 9 years on the public service television in Midland. I was not kicked off there. I just stopped and went to Arcodius Worldwide. I have been the only person advocating capital punishment for the shooting and the deaths of our state troopers, our police, corporation police, city corporation police, and the sheriff's deputy in the state of Michigan and in the United States of America. I have heard no other voice demanding capital punishment, a death penalty. And that is what... what is needed right now. And it's imperative that it be done. Here we are on a Saturday, but did you know yesterday 37 acts of potential terrorism were planned for Friday on July 15th?
Prove that. I imagine we're not going to get proof of this.
2016 in the United States.
Huh, nope. We sure don't. It's just asserting, hey, I heard it was 48, actually.
We're on a Saturday. I'm still waiting on repercussions, and the repercussions coming in from the mayhem that took place yesterday.
What mayhem?
These black Mau Maus of the once Mau Mau movement of Africa in the Congo where they slaughtered and butchered all the white men, women, and children and babies and drank their blood.
Hey, if you were subject to King Leopold in the Congo, you would have killed the white people too. That's what I have to say. I have no sympathy. I have less than no sympathy. I would have been, well, I probably would have been killed too, because, you know, you don't necessarily worry too much about ideology when you've been the victim of that kind of oppression and torture for decades. But I would be helping to kill the white people if I was there now, right? That would be the side I would take. So I don't care about this at all. Fuck them. Fuck those white people in the Congo. Why were they there?
The slaughter of the French whites in Haiti, where they slaughtered them off too. This is no different. It's the same breed of thinking that is taking place. Same thing as the African National Congress in South Africa, butchering and slaughtering the white men and women and children since the blacks took over, the communist blacks, the African National Congress in South Africa. They have butchered thousands, tens of thousands of white men and children. But your Jew-controlled national news and city news, country news, doesn't bring this fact up.
Who cares? Who gives a shit? Dead racists. I don't give a fuck.
For example, we have Barack Hussein Obama, Rudy Barry Soetoro. His mother was an atheist Jew. His biological father was a black communist. Obama mentions himself 45 times during the memorial speech for the Dallas officers who were shot to death. Can you imagine this arrogant dog?
Wow. You're calling him an arrogant dog. You're calling him a dog. That sounds kind of arrogant, right? Now, obviously, he's being arrogant to think that he is worth anything because he's not white, and so he can't be as good as this guy, a fucking dumbass white person with a high school diploma. Obama went to law school. I've said it before, not even a fan, particularly, of Obama. He was the centrist lib, and that doesn't work for me very much, but this is crazy. This like projection of knowing that he is not as smart or as qualified or as learned as Obama, a man with a 4-year degree as well as secondary, advanced degrees. And Jim has a high school diploma and hasn't been to school since the 60s. It's just crazy to hear this. Like, Obama is arrogant because he is black and in power. But I am not arrogant. Despite the fact that I am white and not in power and am speaking in incredibly racist and demeaning language to somebody who's qualified. But I'm not arrogant.
Queer faggot.
Wow.
Sitting in the White House. The audacity. He goes to Dallas
the
to
audacity.
portray a big PR. A big PR of himself where he mentions himself 45 times.
Wow.
When he's supposed to...
How many times does Trump mention himself in his speeches, I wonder? I'm sure that will come up when Jim is talking about him.
Be there, speaking in favor out and for the police officers who protect our communities, our counties and states. You think about what I'm telling you. Please leave that up. Think of what I'm telling you here. I'd like to reiterate something else to you.
Okay, this might not be worth quoting, but...
On July 31st of 2010, I appeared on the steps of Midland, Michigan's courthouse. A gentleman by the name of Randy Gray set up the gathering. And there was a large group of people that were there, and we had big microphones. out. And I spoke on July 31 of 2010. And at that time, I told you exactly what was going to happen. And what you see in America today is taking place. It was the Citizens Against Corrupt Government rally. I spoke about back in January 10 of 1963. It was read into the Congressional Record. The 45 points of the Communist Manifesto to undermine the internal process of the United States of America, to gut this country out. And I read them. I read them on the courthouse steps to a large contingency of crowd in downtown Midland, Michigan, a very fair-sized city. And when I was done, I took my information packet that I had and I personally walked and gave it to the sheriff of the county, who also read the contents. I also like to inform you on my lectures about the county sheriffs and their responsibilities to the people. There's approximately 3,300 counties in the United States. I personally mailed, yes, over 980 DVDs to sheriffs in their respected counties in the United States of America. And the reason I couldn't mail them to everyone, I didn't have the financial support because you people didn't help me. And all those DVDs went out and they were watched.
There is no way to know if that's true.
And I told them in those DVDs to the county sheriffs their responsibility, their jobs, to the constituents of their county, their responsibility that they could...
Hey, a well-known white supremacist crank emailed us a DVD. You want to watch it? I mean, I could see it being like that. Yeah, now, sheriffs are pretty stupid. Man, not all sheriffs are stupid. Mostly they're all terrible. And a lot of them are stupid. But, you know, the requirements to be a cop are low. The standards are low. I think it helps to bring in dumb people who, you know, can't get a better job elsewhere, so they gotta just try to beat minorities up and kill people's dogs. And you make 90, 100 grand a year doing it. So, you know, all you need is a high school diploma to be a cop. Jim could have been a cop. Wouldn't that have been great? Anyway, so yeah, I don't think that the educational standards are very high. So I'm sure some people watched his shit and were like, yeah, man, absolutely. David Clark up in Wisconsin probably was a fan. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he might have genuinely, he's the right area, and he's into the constitutional sheriff thing. He might be a fan. Joe Arpaio was probably a fan. Insane sheriff trying to become God, basically, in his territory. So, yeah, I would believe that this stuff did rub off on some people. But I think it is a reach to say that he mailed out all these DVDs and they were all watched and he was converting cops left or well. Probably he was. But, again, the dumbest of people.
Deputize every male 16 years of age and older as a posse,
Comitatus.
sheriff's posse, to assist him in quelling any form of insurrection in the county.
Oh, that'll be a great idea. Let's just tell a bunch of like 19-year-olds with guns that they're gonna help us put down insurrection, whatever that means. I can't imagine that going poorly. One of the reasons you have to worry about friendly fire, for fuck's sake.
This isn't anything new. To some of you, it might be new because you've been sleeping. You've been Rip Van Winkles. You're a bunch of Rip Van Winkles out there.
That's
thinking
me.
That Puff the Magic Dragon's going to come and just get rid of this whole humbug situation.
R.I.P. Van Winkle.
It's not going to go away. The only way you stop communism and internal anarchy and insurrection, you stomp on it. You crush it. Not with words. You physically crush it.
And he wants to wear the boot, right? Again, that's the point. That's what this comes back to. He doesn't actually care about the cops, which, fair enough. I don't care about the cops either. But Jim does support them when it serves his purpose, when it is in service of crushing his opposition. What he really wants is he wants the power that the cops have, but he doesn't want to have any rules on how he wields it. He doesn't want to have to follow any kind of rules or guidelines, right? He just wants to be able to say, hey, I see a black person in my neighborhood, fuck him, right? Citizen's arrest, or I'm just going to shoot him. They were resisting. That's what he wants, right? He wants to be the boot. And sometimes he licks it, and sometimes he says stuff that sounds nominally anti-authority, right? And so, because he's a white supremacist and he's a white separatist, and these people don't fucking make sense.
Now,
incoherent
here
ideology.
We have the Joker. Everyone knows who the Joker is, don't they? Isn't there a resemblance here? Here we have the Joker. And here we have another Joker.
Oh,
Isn't
damn.
that interesting?
Got him. Damn.
You know, actually, the Joker on the right, he's a bigger Joker than the one on the left. He's made fools out of all of you. Because he's a diehard Muslim and he's a communist.
Wow.
He was raised a communist. He was tutored to be a communist.
So was Pete Buttigieg. And look at him now. You know? So was somebody else. There's another one whose parent was like a Marxist, but I can't remember who it is now.
And that's why
Gillibrand,
you are entering into full-blown communism.
Or Kristen Sinema?
And Valerie Jarrett, his key advisor, is another diaper baby communist.
But she's not
I
arranged.
have something to read to you today. I have something to share with you today in Yahweh the Christ.
Great.
I'm not going to differentiate around here and skip around and duck and dive and call them they and them and who and how. Communism is Jewish. They've been undermining your country, stealing your money, destroying your culture, your values. They've been undermining your country, stealing your money, destroying your culture, your values, your dignity, your honor. Now, will the police finally say it?
Just sharing this with my mom, who I think doesn't really understand why I spend so much time on this, but I think it's worth doing.
Black Lives Matter is a terrorist organization.
And I have made a Photoshop, so that's proof that police
Obama's race war is no accident. What will it take for citizens to face up to the nature of the state of terror against the American people? All the attention about Islamic suicide fanatics provides ample coverage to ignore the pathetic condition of race relations that has been a hallmark of the Obama administration. If the President of the United States, person of color, was accused of festering discontent, the fabled disinformation media would pay no attention to or paint the charges as racist. But the liberal, communist sociopaths that project the progressive culture, progressive is communism, are obsessed with smearing all dissent from the authoritarian oppression as based upon bigotry that objects to the supremacy of their multicolored communist Marxism. And let's understand, Karl Marx was a Jew. He wasn't a German, like Wikipedia said. He was a Jew.
Hey, was he born in Germany? Then he's German.
And his grandfather was a Jew rabbi. And Karl Marx's real name was Moses Mordecai Levy. Get it right and get it straight. Now,
sickness.
The sickness that premeditates the social welfare society is no benign neglect. It is an orchestrated construct to destroy our white Western civilization and traditional heritage.
That's crazy. This person is being very racist, and they're not being racist enough for Jim. He had to throw in the word white. Like, I want to make this so clear. When people talk about Western culture and Western values, that is code for white. Jim said it out loud because he knows that's what it means. It is explicit, right? Jim's making it explicit. It is implicit. It is something that you should understand just by knowing, right? You should just hear Western culture and you should know that we're talking about white. Same as Christian also generally means white, but Western civilization, Western culture, that means white. Jim just says it out loud.
Obama has performed this function from the very inception of his subversion into the White House. The only palatable conclusion to draw from the
Palpable.
Federal Reserve.
He can't read. I should make that clear. He, fundamentally can't read.
Governments, the federal government, consistent pattern of militarizing internal security. To militarize internal security and breaking down local authority, like the sheriff, the city corporation police, and the state troopers, is to complete the plan for total domestic despotism with all police agencies under federal authorization and control.
Boy, good thing that didn't happen, huh?
That is the goal. Furthering tensions to foster a boiling point.
Summer of
Plays
Rage.
into the hands of the Jew elites that want the ultimate hegemony and the only one that counts.
Again, you'll notice he added the word Jew in there. It doesn't say Jew, but he knows it means Jew, so that's what he reads.
The final destruction of a country under common law and its replacement with a central government dictatorship by using urban anarchy like you're seeing in Dallas, like you're seeing in Minneapolis, like you're seeing
This is 2016. This is not 2020. Just keep that in mind.
all over by the Black Lives Matter movement, which is a socialist, communist, anarchy movement, has built the Great Society.
That's probably one of the things he's said that's closest to true in this whole video. Certainly not everybody involved in the Black Lives Matter movement is a socialist or a communist or even black. But it is the sort of thing that has a fair amount of leftism in it, right? So sure, there are certainly a lot of communists, leftists, anarchists who are believers in the movement because basically the idea is, hey, cops keep killing black people and nobody seems to give a shit. Maybe we should give a shit, right? That's kind of the movement. And people who don't like cops already are probably going to be interested in that. Leftists have a very storied history with police and policing, and there's a good reason for leftists to agree that the police are out of fucking line.
And now the thin blue line, our state troopers and city police and sheriff's deputy, the thin blue line is being targeted for even more deadly attacks against violence.
Oh, who cares?
Let me reiterate this also as I spoke on the steps of the courthouse in Midland, Michigan, when I said my heroes today is our local police agencies.
Wow.
My heroes today are the Michigan State Troopers.
Jim, get that boot out of your mouth, man. Your jaw's gonna get stuck.
And the sheriff's deputies and the city police who maintain peace. They maintain and drive at night with their lives at risk. They have families too.
What a goddamn cuck.
The reason you're sleeping well in your homes at night, you have sheriff's deputies patrolling the area. You have city police and state troopers out day and night. If you didn't have them in your presence, Can you imagine what would take place in your communities? Or what would come out of Detroit and Flint or anywhere else to go into the countryside for crime and mayhem? And I'm reiterating again, the thin blue line of our police agencies are my heroes. And I believe in capital punishment. If you in any way premeditate, if you kill a police officer, whether they're robbing a 7-Eleven and they shoot the police officer.
This, I'll just say it. You don't have to be a cop. If you don't like being called a pig, if you don't like being called a racist shithead, if you don't like being called a spouse abuser or a child toucher or a rapist, you can stop being a cop. You can just quit. Now, if you were those things, you will still be those things, unfortunately. If you are abusing your spouse, you know, that's probably not going to change just because you quit being a cop. But at least people will stop calling you a pig to your face, which you deserve. I don't give... I know I'm coming, you know, maybe I'm being a little edgy here. Maybe I'm being a little bit too, you know, a little edgelord, trying to stir up some shit. But I have a friend who I went to school with who was shot in his own home by a cop. You know, I'm done with making excuses. I don't give a fuck. They should have zero legal protections. They should have one legal protection, but no guns. I firmly believe that we should disarm the police. Like, that's not me taking an extreme take for the extreme stance for the sake of being edgy. I just genuinely believe that. You could still have armed officers who are trained, right? We have SWAT. You can still have people who have guns. If that's what we need, we decide that that's what we need, is we need people with guns to come solve problems. We can still have them. But maybe every single cop doesn't have to be able to just kill you on the spot. Right? Maybe there should be people who get called in to do that, as opposed to what it is now, where they can just execute you at a traffic stop. It is astonishing how baby soft these pieces of shit are. They have incredible protection. You can't do shit to a cop. You can't touch them. You can't fuck with them. They can do anything they want to you, and if you resist, that's a crime. There are states where it is legal for cops to force you to have sex with them. They can have sex with their people who are in their custody. It's fucking crazy. And you want me to act like these cops are valuable to society? Fuck you. Absolutely fuck you. I have lost friends over this. I literally, in my life, I had a friend and her sister was going to become a cop. And I did not change my tune, and she stopped talking to me. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if what I said made you feel bad about your sister. But your sister didn't have to choose to be a fucking cop. If you are a cop, you are upholding the system that we are trying to change, right? People who think the way I think. People who think the way a lot of people think. They think the system needs to be changed because it seems to be built on white supremacy. And cops are upholding white supremacy. And if you sign up to be a cop, you are signing up to do that. And it's just, there's no excuses. I don't care if you're a good cop. I don't care if you have the best of intentions. I don't. Quit. Go be a firefighter. Do something useful. You are not going to reform the police from within. People have tried it. And they end up no longer being police. So, I know I've kind of taken a little detour here, but Jim keeps sucking their dick. Just balls, right? And I can't take it. I just can't take it.
Officer and murder him, to me that's a form of murder. Or they deliberately murder them like they did in Dallas and how they're doing in Georgia and Florida and all over how these blacks are shooting our police. That is capital murder.
Hey, I think that if they get caught, they try them for murder. I don't think, much as I would like this to not be the case, I don't think that cops are in their own category of where if you do violence to them, it's not the same kind of, it's usually worse for people, right?
No appeals. No.
How many regular people get a fucking parade through the city if they die at their job? Oh man, traffic was backed up again. Another roofer fell off and died, and so they brought all the roofers from the city out, and we held a memorial for him through the center of the city. That doesn't happen, okay? People take this shit very seriously. It is ridiculous that he is out here saying this shit.
No appeals. One trial. No 25, 30 years in some prison waiting to be executed. 30 days! And you take them out and hang them in public!
Jim wants to see
Put
people
it on
suffer.
your PBS network.
You know, that's what he wants. He wants to see people suffer, and if possible, he'd like to be the one inflicting it.
Now you think about this. And if there's accomplices that have aided them in the killing of our police officers, they're to be hung too. This has to stop now. We don't need a
I am just gonna scroll back through here real quick. This is from 1989, I believe. And let's see. Several members of this group were involved in an organization known as the Order, founded by Robert Matthews, an Aryan Nations member. Matthews was killed in December 1984 during a gunfight with the FBI. Order members were responsible for counterfeiting, armed robberies of more than $4 million, assaults on federal officers, the murders of a Missouri state policeman and a Denver, Colorado Jewish talk host, and other crimes. 38 Order members were arrested between October and March and convicted of charges relative to these acts. Several fugitive Order members were captured at the CSA compound in Arkansas. I mean, so I guess it's not a problem if you're killing some cops. I guess that's fine. But not if you're killing our beautiful cops who are... Which ones? You know, how do you decide which ones are good? I know how you decide. The good cops are the ones who quit. That's how you decide. The good cops are the ones that are no longer cops. Unfortunately. That's how you know.
No uprising here. This is what it's coming to. And Obama is protecting these killers. These rioters, these anarchists is what he has not only supporting, he is now giving...
Oh yeah, Obama and Pelosi were big fans of the anarchist movement.
Giving them money to perpetrate all the commotion in the different cities. Federalization of governance is achieved through managed chaos and false flag crisis. Much has been said about
Tim Constantine. Let's see. The Washington Times. The Washington Times is not the Washington Post or the New York Times. It is not that highly regarded. Hey, Robert Knight. He was on InfoWars. Black voice, Peter Navarro. Great. Really great stuff, Peter Navarro. Sponsored stuff. Yeah, I wonder what this guy is about. Yeah, this guy is not very smart.
The Black Lives Matter faction of incinerary thugs. However,
Incendiary.
most talking heads are afraid to label these insurrectionists for what they are, namely domestic terrorists. Domestic terrorists performing anarchy. One exception is Tim Constantine in his column Black Lives Matter is a terrorist group. Says, some reasonable questions. When a shooting involves a white police officer and a black suspect occurs, why is it racism immediately assumed? Conversely, on the other hand, when a black suspect guns down an unsuspecting white policeman, husband and father of two, why are we told?
Hey, why couldn't the black suspect also be a husband and father of two? You know, like, weird that you don't humanize the suspect, but you humanize the police officer. It's almost as if you have a specific angle that you're taking here.
Not to assume.
How do you know that the black suspect is even guilty of the crime? You'll notice that it says suspect and not criminal. So it could just be somebody that the cops think look like somebody else. That has happened. Repeatedly, unfortunately. So, you know, I wonder if this guy has an agenda.
Racism played any role. It's an amazing double standard, and Obama's leading the herd on this one. If the criteria for being considered as a terrorist group is someone who uses violent action or threats of violent action for political purposes, Black Lives Matter is clearly a terrorist group.
Look, to prove that, right, to make that claim and say Black Lives Matter is a terrorist group, here's what you need to be able to show. From the top down, these, like, violence is explicitly endorsed by leadership, whatever the leadership of Black Lives Matter looks like. There was kind of no leadership because Black Lives Matter was more of a slogan or a rallying cry and less of like an organization. I understand there is a movement, like an organization called that, but most of the people who are showing up to protests saying Black Lives Matter are not members of any specific organization. So to be able to prove that Black Lives Matter is a terrorist group, you would have to prove that there was like coherent ideology and planning top down to do terrorism and to support people who do terrorism. But you don't have that. What you have is a bunch of rallies where civil disobedience happens and people make their own decisions. You don't have to like it, and it's not always legal. But there is a difference between that and a systemic plan. You can claim maybe that there is one, but you would have to be able to show it. Otherwise, you can't claim that they are terrorists. You can claim that there are people who are affiliated with the movement or who say they support the cause, whatever, because he would say that, you don't have white terrorists, even if they all believe the same shit, even if they're all talking about the same stuff. You would say, they're lone wolves, they're acting independently. Alex Jones, quick to cover up for white people who do crimes. Oh, they're mentally ill. Oh, they're controlled by the government. Oh, it's a false flag. It's never actually somebody with an ideology that agrees with his ideology, right? Even though they are. It's interesting how that works. Hello, Asia. I'm trying to remember. I learned how to say how's it going in Arabic, but I've forgotten. I assume you have seen one of my videos, maybe one of the Macklemore videos or Shabjdid. But what I do when I'm not making those kinds of videos is I watch these videos from this terrible racist guy, and I correct the things that he says, and I write about it. So just so you know what is going on here, there's this... Oh, okay. I have a lot of people who pop into my chat who are not Americans or not primarily English speakers. So I try to be welcoming with that. But anyway, so this guy is dead now, but he was a prominent racist in America. And I found a video archive of 200-ish of his, we'll call them lessons. And I've been working through them, going through the various conspiracies that he talks about and debunking things. It's mostly terrible. It's not fun. Sometimes I get to yell because the stuff he says is just so offensive and crazy and wrong. But it is also, I'll just warn you, it's not that pleasant to sit through. So if you are willing to do that, I'm happy to have you along. If you want to ask questions or whatever, I'm happy to stop and talk about stuff. But this is what I do here.
If members actually hope to achieve racial harmony, the organization needs to immediately renounce violence and work with law enforcement to find common ground.
Hey, you know how the whole thing about Black Lives Matter is like cops keep killing black people with no fucking repercussions? What they actually need to do is start working with cops. Those people who are famously happy to work with, I don't know, anybody that doesn't support white supremacy, I guess. Like I said, like I wrote, I have been to a few rallies in my life. I was at a rally where the state police showed up and tear gassed everybody. So I don't know how interested the cops are in having a dialogue where they really face the problem within policing of being built on white supremacy and upholding white supremacy and like why it's okay for cops to kill black and brown and poor. It does happen to white people too. I'm not dismissing that. Cops, although they are racist, they are willing to kill anybody. They're just happy to do it. It's one of the perks of the job. If they got a pet dog, fantastic. We are shooting that because, you just like to take a life, I think. A lot of cops used to be soldiers. It's interesting how that, you train people who have a high school diploma how to kill, teach them that what they need to do is be scared all the time and kill the enemy. And then you take them to civilian life and you teach them the same shit. I wonder why we have problems. Anyway, I don't think the cops were that interested in coming to a real understanding with the organizers of the Black Lives Matter protests about how to solve the problems. I don't believe they think there is a problem. Right? And so how do you negotiate? How do you find a middle ground? We say you should stop killing black people on the street for no fucking reason. And they say, have you considered that they deserve it? And now what? I mentioned this, but a guy I went to college with, I went to Christian college, okay? I went to a very conservative Christian college. I'm just giving you context here so you understand the kind of guy I went to college with. At my school, if you were caught with alcohol, even during the summer, when you were not at school, but you were still enrolled, you could be expelled. Okay? We had chapel 5 days a week. I want you to understand, we're not talking like Texas Christian, right? Or some of these, nominally, like Villanova is a Catholic school. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a fundamentalist Christian college that is very serious about rules. He graduated. He was from St. Lucia. Okay, he's from the Caribbean. Got a degree in accounting, I think, and was doing accounting and missions. And a cop broke into his room in his apartment complex and shot him in the chest. And then they tried to smear his name after they killed him. Now, I'm done with giving grace to cops. I will not do it. I don't care. You cannot convince me that I should, because the evidence is overwhelming. We know. Again, if you are nominally on the left at all, you will have seen this statistic. But if you haven't, I'll just mention it. 40% of cops self-reported domestic abuse. They weren't caught. They admitted it, right? And 40% admitted it, which means the true number is going to be higher. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's only 45%. I'm not trying to be crazy here, right? I'm just saying, if 40% of them admit that they're doing it, there are some people that are doing it that don't want to admit it, right? So you can assume that the number is higher. Yeah, and I mean, look, killing is supposed to be forbidden in America, right? It's just that there is a thing in America called qualified immunity, which basically means it is almost impossible to prosecute a cop because there are so many things that they're allowed to basically say, well, because of this precedent, I have immunity for this action. And most cops get away with it. The cop who killed my friend only got 10 years, and then they tried to plead and get the case reheard. And she shot an unarmed black man in his own home twice in the chest. Right? I don't know how much more clear cut it can really get. But they were trying to overturn that conviction for murder. She only got 10 years. Jim's saying that if you kill a cop, it should be 30 days in prison and they take you out and hang you. So I wonder if there's maybe a double standard. Are you from Algeria? You don't have to say where you're from. I don't know what sorts of things you have context for based on where you are in the world. I know that the issues in Algeria are... Actually, look at this. I'm working my way through it. I should have read it already. I understand. I should have already finished it. But I am working my way through The Wretched of the Earth by Algerian Frenchman Frantz Fanon. Okay. Okay, so you can follow me pretty closely. Yeah. See, look, I'm not here to defend the British police in any way. You would know better than I how that works. But my understanding, at least, is that most British police don't carry guns. And you just have fewer police-related killings in England. Or the UK, right? Kind of weird how that works. You have serious gun laws, and so most people don't have guns. And if you get caught with a gun, it's a really serious crime, which is why all the British rappers rap about knives. I've listened to a bunch of like grime and also like 021 kid, right, who is Iranian but lives in London, I believe. I've listened to a fair bit of British rap, and lots of talk about knifing people, not as much talk about shooting people, because gun charges in England are serious. So you have that, and then you also don't have fully armed to the teeth cops who just go around terrorizing people. And you also don't hear about mass shootings going on in England. You know, it's weird. It's weird how it works in other places that have laws about like who can have guns and why, and take it seriously and punish people for breaking those laws. I would imagine there are fewer children who die of gun wounds just because they found their dad's gun in England than there are in the US. There are a good number of children every year who die because of unsecured firearms. That's not because of a mass shooting, not because of a criminal, not because of anything other than carelessness, and they find a gun and they shoot themselves with it. I have a friend who shot himself cleaning his gun. He was a hunter, he knew what he was doing, and he still ended up shooting himself with a shotgun. Now, maybe he committed suicide and they just didn't tell us, and they said that he was cleaning his gun. But I don't know. I don't feel like that's the case. I don't know. I have no real thought that there's a need to have guns. I understand that people want to hunt, and that's fine. I know that there are people who like to do target shooting. I think that's fine. I think what I would do is similar to, I think, what they do in the UK, which is you can have a gun to go shooting with, and you can have certain kinds of guns to go hunting with, but those stay at the gun club. And you have to sign them in and out, right? If you want to go target shoot, that's fine. Your gun doesn't live with you. Your gun lives at the target range or whatever. That I think is fine, because I can understand why people think guns are cool. I understand why people want to play with them and shoot them, but you do not have to be John Wayne, right? You are not gonna stop the dastardly crime by having a gun in your purse. And almost nobody needs them for protection. You would be just as well served to carry like a baton on you, right? Because you're more likely to be able to use that effectively than a gun. There's data on how even soldiers have a hard time pointing a gun at somebody's face and pulling the trigger. It's just hard to do that. It's hard to make yourself do it. So why carry something that is gonna actually probably limit your ability to defend yourself when you could instead just carry an extendable baton or a little club on your keychain or whatever? You're probably not going to get mugged. Carry some mace. There are many, many ways you can defend yourself that are not gun, right? So I would say, if I was making the laws, if I was in charge, there would still be armed special force or specially qualified, I would probably say, police, right? SWAT, some sort of response, because there are criminals with guns who do bad things with those guns. I'm not going to deny that. That's a reality. It's not as big a reality as people want it to be, but it does happen. So I don't think you can say we shouldn't have any form of armed response. But I would say, beat cops, no guns. If you are walking, you can kill people with a taser if you really want to. So they could still kill. They could still do it. It just would be harder. But I think you say, if you're on the streets, you don't get a gun. If you need a gun, you call it in and you stay in your car, right? Even then, I would say also, if I was making the rules, we would massively overhaul the policing system. So, we'd overhaul the code, the law codes, and we would change the sorts of things that we prioritize. But as far as guns go, I can see a very narrow use case for civilians to have them. People want to say, this is very tedious. You may hear people talk about this. People want to say that, if you disarm the populace, then the government can become corrupt and they can be, unchecked because they're not afraid of the people. And so Hitler took away all the guns from the Jews, and that's why the Holocaust happened. That's why we need to keep our guns. You can make that argument if you want to, but American police have access to military drones and tanks. I do not think that your handgun is going to stop an Abrams. Yeah. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you're Rambo, and you can fucking take out a whole town of cops. But I would say they could hit you from about 26,000 feet with a Hellfire missile if they wanted to, because they have access to that shit. Like, you are not going to defend yourself from the police. It's a crime to do that anyway. What? Is it okay to shoot a cop if they're abridging your rights? Well, not if you're black. Right? This logic doesn't really carry through to non-white people. Should black people have guns to defend themselves? They're more likely to be targeted by cops. Yeah, but if they do, then it's black crime on white cops. But like this article that Jim is reading from, this guy says, if a white cop kills a black suspect, it's racism. But if a black guy kills a white cop with a husband with 2 kids, how come that's not racism? Well, you said suspect. You didn't say even that this person was convicted of the crime or was caught doing the crime or was guilty of anything that would warrant lethal force, right? The George Floyd, not to bring it back to that, but George Floyd paid with a bad 20. That's what got him killed. He paid with a bad 20. Maybe he knew it was a bad 20 and maybe he didn't. It's not his job to know unless he was purposely trying to slip bad bills. But even if he was trying to purposely pass off counterfeit money, that's a crime, but it is not a crime that will get you the chair. So, there are so many things we could talk about, and if I tried to, I might start crying. So we'll move on. But that is my stance on guns. Minimal use case. I don't think anybody should be allowed to keep them at their homes, or I think they should all be kept where you have to check them out every time you want to use them and heavily monitored.
If instead the group continues to poison the atmosphere with calls for violent acts against the men and women who serve and protect us of the thin blue and brown line, we must call members of the Black Lives Matter for what they are. And that is terrorists. Terrorists performing anarchy. I already told you what anarchy means.
He read the definition of anarchy from the dictionary. If you told him that there was a political movement called anarchism, he would look at you like you were crazy, because he doesn't know what that means.
Cultivated by Jesse Jackson, the opportunist.
Also, that's not how Jesse Jackson's name is spelled. There's no I in the name of the Reverend Jesse Jackson. That was an accident.
Extortion business and L. Sharpton fear-based racial discrimination smears, the African American community has allowed themselves to be used as ghetto pinata. That results in black-on-black non-stop carnage. Even the USA Today reports that Chicago's murder rate has soared 72% in 2016.
Let's look at Chicago's murder rate. Look, also, I've talked about this before, but places that have high density, poor populations tend to have a lot of violent crime. It has very little to do with race and almost everything to do with financial and economic circumstances, right? If you are very poor, you are likely to commit crimes. That is something that we know. A lot of black people in America are poor because of policy choices. A lot of black people in America live in dense inner city communities because of redlining, for example. So 762 murders in a year in Chicago. Now, first of all, the deadliest year in nearly 2 decades. So in 20 years, this is the worst it has been. All right. And that's not good. I'm not here to say that nearly 800 murders is good. I don't think it is. Let's see. Since 2010, shooting lethality has increased. Show me some numbers. Chicago crime trends. Let's look at these. This is the really interesting stuff that I do on this channel. I don't really need this. I really just need a nice chart showing me year over year violent crime, please. That's what I would like to see. Oh, here we go. We can click through. There we go. That's what I wanted. Look, crime almost always increases in the summer. I wonder why. Because people are out of school and have time on their hands. Also, a lot of people who are food insecure get fed at school. And so when you're out of school, you might be a little bit more desperate. I'm just speculating. People get cranky when it gets hot. All right? And they got a lot of time on their hands. Geographic, I don't care about that. I don't care about that. I don't care about that. And I don't care about the robberies. I don't care about that. God. That was not helpful. 20 to 29. Shocking. I would bet the vast majority of them are under 25 because a lot of them are college age. And also, of course, men, because men are the ones who have the most guns. That just goes up to 2008. What the fuck is this? Useless. Here we go. Chicago sees less than 600 murders in 2024 for first time since 2019. So it seems like 762 was the high water mark, and those numbers kind of were going down. What do you know? And what is the population of Chicago? 2.5 million. So there are countries that are smaller than Chicago. And the Chicago metro area is certainly larger than that. Over 25% of the population in the Chicago metro area, which is so there's about 10 million people living in and around Chicago. There are a lot of countries that don't have 10 million people. 762 is a lot, but relative to the population of Chicago, it's not as big as it seems.
Shootings up more than 88%. And did you know some of the strictest gun laws in the United States is in Chicago?
That's true. Do you know where some of the weakest gun laws in the United States are? Gary, Indiana. Now, we'll just take a quick look here. We'll look at Chicago. Here's Chicago, all right? Here's Gary, Indiana. Do you notice that Gary, Indiana is like 5 miles from Chicago? But it's in a different state, which means different gun laws, which means you can just go to Indiana and buy guns and then take them across the border to Chicago. That is what that means. Chicago has really strict gun laws, but Gary doesn't. So people go to Gary or Fort Wayne or wherever else, Merrillville. You know, they cross the border, buy guns in Indiana, and they don't have to deal with Chicago's gun laws. Or they buy guns elsewhere, and they don't have to deal with Chicago's gun laws. Right? It's not that hard. The state line, Chicago and Gary are right here. So, the laws in Chicago have very little to do with it.
Illinois, period.
Chicago, Illinois. Obama's years as a community communist Bolshevik in Chicago is well documented. And how the Marxist communist Jew Saul Alinsky not only taught Barack Obama, but also Hillary Clinton. Everything he knows about civic upheaval provides the following testimony. Alinsky taught him well, taught Obama well. And Alinsky's son was the first to admit it when he wrote a letter to the Boston Globe in praise of Barack Obama following the two.
So Saul Alinsky, he wrote a book that I never read in the 70s, I think, or 60s, called Rules for Radicals. It's been a real problem on the right for a long time. My mom accused me of reading it when she was worried that I was becoming a communist. I don't know anybody. I mean, I'm sure people have read it. I know Hillary read it and then promptly disregarded all of the meaningful parts of it to be a war hawk and centrist. But whatever. There are people who were at one point associated with some leftist ideas who read Rules for Radicals. Alinsky's son seems to be saying that Obama learned the value of community organizing and it seems to be working for him. That is what this is saying. What he's not saying is Barack Obama studied under my father, and he was a Padawan learner to my father, Saul Alinsky, the Sith Lord of the left. You know, it's
2008 Democratic National Convention.
Basically the same thing, though, right?
Barack Obama's training in Chicago, quote, by the great community organizers is showing its effectiveness. It is an amazingly powerful format, and the method of my late father always works to get the message out and get the supporters on board of this. When executed meticulously and thoughtfully, it is a powerful strategy for initiating change and making it really happen. Obama learned his lesson well.
Again, we've seen the whole quote now. Whether it's in context or not, I don't care. What this is being used for is not what it says, right? This is meant to insinuate that Obama learned from Alinsky directly, and he owes, but it doesn't say that. And this guy doesn't even claim that. He doesn't claim that Obama was listening to his dad. He claims that Obama learned about the value of community organizing, which is something that Alinsky talked about. Those are different things.
Mentored by a Jew communist. And the end result of this riotous training operates in every corner of the treasonable Obama government. using false
Treasonous, I think, probably would be the correct way to put that.
flag operations as national distractions is common practice. Even when real maniacs commit their execution murders, the establishment culture is reluctant to address black on white violence as a hate crime. The Dallas police slaughter is an obvious example. Top police group wants justice to investigate Dallas police killings as hate crime, presents some sobering quotes, such as, the U.S. Department of
Wow. Who cares about what a cop thinks?
Justice is always quick to insert itself into local investigations, to bring in federal power to replace local authority. That's what the game is here.
Okay, but this guy is saying that he wants the feds to come in, so what about that?
Said Group President Chuck Canterbury on Friday. Today we expect action just as swift. We want a federal investigation into those who were motivated by their hatred of police to commit.
Right, so he's saying we want federal investigations of this. So, but Jim should be opposed to that. He just said that that's bad.
Mass murders in Dallas, and I'll make one correction, motivated by their hatred to want to kill all white people and white police officers. If there has ever been an assassination of police officers that fits the current hate crime legislation, Dallas is it. Canterbury told.
And the guy is dead. So fuck off. Right? Do you want to prove that it's a hate crime? Don't kill him. Investigate it. Put him on trial. See what he has to read, or see what he has to write, you know?
The National Public Radio on Friday. Though the main offender is dead, the hate crime investigation will show to the Justice Department and to the country that this was a hate-based crime. Now I want to talk about this Loretta Lynch, who controls is the head attorney general, i.e. federal law enforcement officer in the District of Kabbalah on the Potomac, okay? And let's think about this for a while. Loretta Lynch, good friend of Eric Holder. Eric Holder, another diaper baby communist. Isn't that interesting? I find it's very interesting.
I do not.
And they just can't find it to be able to call a hate crime of a black who says he wants to kill all white people and white police officers not a hate crime. Because
Who said that? And also, if the guy who said it is the guy who shot those cops in Dallas, he's dead because they killed him. So, problem solved. The guy said he wanted to kill cops. He killed some cops and then he died. Like, justice, if you want.
that is preaching and showing anarchy. That is terrorism. And other blacks are picking up on it because a lot of the blacks, the majority of them, they have more toes and fingers than they do an IQ.
Well, it's lovely. You know, I talk about this regularly. I kind of come back to this regularly. He talks about a whole bunch of crazy bullshit. Some of it's funny, some of it's really stupid, some of it's just deeply racist. But at the end of the day, the only reason this stuff exists, these videos, these lectures that he's giving, the only reason they exist is to justify his anti-Semitism and his white supremacy, and to explain to other people that it is okay and good. That's it. All of the crazy conspiracies he talks about, the aliens, the pyramids, all of that stuff, it is only in service of justifying his white supremacy. He believes that white people are better than everybody else, and all of the other stuff he talks about is just trying to prove it. That's it. And it's, frankly, it's embarrassing. It's sad. I talk about this a lot, and you know, if you have been here before, you've probably heard it, but the idea of being so dependent on like your skin color giving you value is just sad. It's depressing to think the only thing that makes you special is pure chance, pure luck that you were born with white skin, or you were born with white skin in a place that considers your brand of whiteness to be white. Lest we forget the Irish. The Spanish. Do the Spanish count as white? Depends who you ask, right? But anyway, heaven forbid you be born with a different skin color than what is accepted as white in these communities. I'm white. Both my parents are white. Right? Shocker. Look at me. But I didn't do anything to be born white. I didn't get to pick. God didn't come to me when I was in heaven as a little baby soul, which I also don't believe in. But God didn't come to me in heaven and be like, hey, if you could choose any race to be, which one would it be? And I was like, make me white. Right? That's not how it works. You are born to whoever you're born to. And then that is your lot. And to make that your identity, to treat that as if it has some sort of inherent value, is just weak. Oh, look at all these white people who did cool stuff. Have you done any of that cool stuff? No, but people who looked kind of like me did hundreds of years ago. And also, they didn't speak my language, and they are also not of my actual heritage, but white people did it. And whiteness matters. But also, it's Jim is he has been clear a couple times that like Karl Marx, for example. Karl Marx isn't German. He's Jewish. But he was born in Germany. Right. But he has Jewish ancestry, so he's Jewish, not German. Right? It doesn't even matter if you're white. At a certain point, it gets more granular, and we have to go into blood testing to see if you're the right kind of white. Oh, I don't care if you look white and were born in America. We have to make sure that none of your grandparents were a minority or Native American, because then you don't count. Even whiteness isn't enough, right? You have to pass the purity test. And it's just so weak. You got to really not have much going on, I think, for the most part, to really get into this stuff. Or just have an incredible sense of entitlement, which is what a lot of wealthy white people have. Anyway, moving on.
Now, the politicalization of any murder with the characterizations of hate based upon race has produced an atmosphere of total division that further rancor among ethnic groups. However, when a president such as Obama continues his crusade against guns while refusing to acknowledge his own role in undermining lawful public safety authority, the calamity intensifies even more.
Calamity.
Daniel John Sobinsky's article in The American Thinker, Blame Black Lives Matter movement for the Dallas carnage, illustrates Obama's complicity going back.
Let's see who this guy is. Hey, he's dead. Great. I think that's probably for the best. Seems like he is dead. He's from Chicago. Well, there doesn't seem to be much about him. I feel comfortable pissing on his grave because The American Thinker. This is not a Nazi magazine. I will be surprised. Jerome Corsi, conspiracy theorist. Complimentary piece on a white supremacist. Robert Spencer. Not Richard Spencer. Robert Spencer. Anti-Muslim. Asserted that the election was rigged. Yeah, what do you know? So I don't feel like this guy was contributing
Back
much.
to the start of his administration. Quote, the Dallas shootings are the logical extension of the demonization of police officers by the racial grievance industry.
That's right. These black people, they got nothing to complain about. Living in America, it is fine and has always been fine, and they have always been treated with respect. So why are they making a fuss?
Spearheaded by the Black Lives Matter movement. A demonization that began almost as soon as President Barack Obama took office. And as Fox News reported in 2009, many police officers across the country have a message for President Barack Obama. Get all the facts before criticizing one of our own police officers.
Or
Obama's
beautiful
public
police.
criticism that Cambridge officers acted stupidly, calling the police stupid. When they arrested
And we know that they're not stupid, despite the fact that if you score too high on some of their tests, they won't hire you.
black Harvard professor
Maybe that's a conspiracy, but I choose to believe it because cops are fucking dumb.
Henry Louis Gates Jr. could make it harder for police to work with people of color, some officers said on Thursday. As the years of despair continue under the Democratic regime of the Communist Democratic Party regime that rule by executive orders, the flames of
Obama was always making executive orders. Now, Trump is also doing that, but that's fine because goddamn Democrats won't work with him, so he has to do it. Obama, of course, was just getting cooperation across the board. Republicans would have loved to work with him. It's just, why would he just do executive orders instead of trying to compromise with Republicans? It's a mystery.
racial hostility
These people are too stupid to live.
compound. Now that the Dallas bloodbath has declared open season on law enforcement.
That's right.
The
Open
Obama
season.
Department
After 2016, you just saw cops getting murked everywhere. That's what I remember from the last 8 years, is just a nonstop parade of cop killings. Wait, no. A killings of organizers who were protesting police brutality. That's what I remember.
of injustice is on the spot
Basically
to put
the same,
an end
right?
to the double standard and hold hate groups like Black Lives Matter accountable. Let me tell you about the Federal Justice Department.
Jim went to federal prison in the 90s.
The Federal Justice Department is just about just us. They can lie about anything.
Damn. What about the local justice department, Jim? Are they also about just us? If we're playing with words and things that sound like other things.
They can even lie to cover up for the crimes that Hillary Clinton committed. One of the greater liars. You thought Barack Obama was a liar sitting in office? Wait till if she is elected into this country, there's going to be immediate war, despair, upheaval.
I mean, I have very little reason to defend Hillary, and I mostly won't. She was a war hawk. I don't know that we would have immediately gotten into war. She was a very calculating centrist lib. She doesn't really believe in anything. She maybe would have tried maybe to do single payer healthcare. That was sort of her project when she was first lady. Maybe that's something she actually believed in. But she's just a politician. She is a good liar. I agree. She is not principled. She is somebody that I do not want to see in office. She would have been better than Trump, but I can easily argue against her, right? I got no problems with that. No problems whatsoever saying Hillary is bad. Trump was worse, but Hillary was also bad. And she would have been a continuation of the Clinton style of Democratic politics, which gave us the crime bill. You know, great. That's not something that we on the left were really excited about the possibility of.
Because she also, Saul Alinsky,
Uh-huh.
on
Saul
anarchy,
Alinsky.
upheaval in the country, she is another prime student along with Barack Obama.
Now, she actually, I think, does like Alinsky. She has spoken about Alinsky before.
Out of the Chicago area of the communist Saul Alinsky. Do you understand? It isn't going away. And you better buy more guns. And you better buy more ammunition. And you better understand who your enemy is. Your enemy is not the police. The police who protect you and your children and your family and your babies.
Now, remember, this can change very quickly if the police are deemed to not be protecting you and your families, whatever that looks like to the person who's deciding it.
Your enemy is not the police. And you better buy more guns. And you better buy more ammunition. And you better understand who your enemy is. Your enemy is not the police.
I wonder if Jim is getting some heat from the law enforcement that keep in touch with him about you gotta make it pretty clear when you're talking about all this militant uprisings that you are not encouraging people to attack cops. Because it's possible. I've read his FBI file. They were checking in on him for at least for a good while.
Your enemy is. Your enemy is not the police. The police who protect you and your children and your family and your babies and your society. They're not your enemy. Obama wants you to think that they're your enemy. They are not. They are your... protectors. Obama is the destroyer. Just like in Sweden with that little girly boy that runs Sweden and that Jew bitch Merkel in Germany.
Merkel comes up again.
And all the rest of these bums, Hollande in France, all the rest of these bums who control in the higher offices, allowing you to be invaded by terrorists, anarchy, terrorism, raping, plundering, killing, murdering, destroying. If you do not protect yourself physically, you are doomed.
So, I mean, that sounds like he's saying you should just go start doing violence against people. Not cops, but unnamed people.
Now, with the National Party conventions just around the corner, about a week away, both Republican and Democratic nomination events are very much at risk from the Jew George Soros' crowd that funds hoodlums. Last year, Politico's article...
That's a classic trope. You're going to have to prove it.
Major donors considered funding Black Lives Matter provided the proof. Quote, some of the biggest donors on the left, communist left, progressive left, liberal left, communist left,
He said that twice.
plan to meet behind closed doors next week in Washington with leaders of the Black Lives Matter movement and their allies to discuss funding the burgeoning protest movement.
Burgeoning?
Well, guess who was in the White House just the other day?
Who?
The head of the Black Lives Matter movement from Dallas.
Who?
He was having a private session with Barack Hussein Obama.
What's his name?
And they're buddies, you know. They get along good, you know.
This is all assertion, and you have not provided even a name of this Black Lives Matter leader. Maybe he's talking about DeRay McKesson? Maybe, but that's just a guess. I mean, DeRay McKesson is black, so I could certainly see why Jim wouldn't like him. but I don't know. He could be talking about fucking anybody.
Why? Because the Black Lives Matter movement is following what? Barack Obama's and Loretta Lynch and Valerie Jarrett and the Communist Democratic Party agenda of wholesale anarchy, civil unrest, and gutting out America and bringing in a dictatorship of total communism.
Yeah, that's what we got in America during the Obama years. Total communism. God, that would have been cool.
Against all the states. You see, I just say it like it is. I don't hide. I don't go in the closet. I do at times talk back to my TV. I'm surprised that I don't break them all because of what it portrays, okay? I tell it like it is. And you know what the Father said here? Here's what the Father said in these books, these 66 books. He said, when you see crimes being committed in your country, in your town, city, neighborhood, and you do not even cry out against them, you are as guilty as those doing it. And just where do you sit, Mr. and Mrs. America?
I sit in my chair, sometimes in the couch.
Now, yes, this is the same group that posted Black Lives Matter, revealing a chilling plan. Quote, it's open season for killing cops and crackers.
Boy, that seems like the sort of thing that would have been followed up. Doesn't it? I mean, just thinking rationally, if people are saying it's open season for cop killing, you would think that probably somebody would have investigated that. And like, if it's random people on social media using a hashtag, that is, I mean, you could say it's bad. You can say that it's unacceptable and we shouldn't allow it. Whatever, you can say that, and that's fine. But it is not the same as it being a top-down strategy or policy, you know, by the Black Lives Matter organization, whatever that is. Again, he has not really defined that. I think he probably just means that everybody who has said Black Lives Matter is part of it, but I don't know for sure. He's not into specifics.
Crackers are white people.
Crackers are
over the
white people.
past
That's
several
true.
weeks, leadership of the Black Lives Matter and F Your Flag movement have
I'm fine with that,
repeatedly
too.
called for the killing of whites. This is total anarchy.
No, it's not. And name names, you bitch. Name names. You were talking about these alleged leaders of the Black Lives Matter movement who are repeatedly calling for killing whites. Who? Seems like if there were real people that are saying this stuff that have any sort of say in things, you would be mentioning them. But you don't have any names. You just have, like, there's a hashtag.
Terrorism right here.
Weak
police
as
officers.
fuck.
Through conference calls and their blog talk radio programs, ringleaders of this domestic terrorist organization have made it clear to their followers that they should target white people who are alone and execute them when they are most vulnerable. There you have it. The Obama race legacy of black and white. Yeah, find the white people, no matter who they are and how old they are, when they're alone and most vulnerable, just kill them. And that's what the Mau Maus did in the Congo. That's what they did in the riots down by Detroit and Watts and all over the United States. In Philadelphia, the black women used to have these big hat pins in their hair, the big hat pins like this. And they'd walk up behind white women on the streets and stab them in the back with them big hat pins.
Oh, is that
You
so?
were never told that, were you? You were...
I would be interested to see if there were hat pin killings. Philadelphia. Let's see here. People used to be afraid of hat pins. Look at this. This does not seem to be based in any real reality. So, I mean, shocker. Jim's telling bullshit stories. But I don't know, the real stories about hat pin usage as a weapon seems to be some lady allegedly stabbed a guy who was trying to sexually assault her, and some people, I'm gonna say this man also was probably guilty of doing something to a woman, and that's why she stabbed him. Could have been, maybe it wasn't, but seems likely. Sometimes they got in trouble for it. Again, this woman was being assaulted and stabbed a man for trying to assault her. They reported a woman was wanted by the authorities for stabbing a man with a hat pin who she claimed had assaulted her 13-year-old. So these seem to be self-defense tactics used by women to protect themselves against men, mostly. There are maybe women, it seems like women were also occasionally attacking each other with them. But most of the injuries seem to be just accidents because hat pins stuck out. And this lady, I don't know if you can tell, but she's white. So, maybe it wasn't just black people who were wearing them. Again, it's just, who cares? This is just nonsense. There's none of this that suggests that they were taking action with these.
We're never told anything by the Jew Control News. And
I am going to...
You and your husbands,
Fuck you. I'm going to go make myself another cup of coffee. And I will be back in a bit. Apologize for the big bang. I'm going to put on a playlist while I'm gone of some lovely Kunzite. I've been listening to them a lot the last few days. Mike Stroud from Ratatat is one half of this group. I think they're very, very pleasant. And I'll be back in a bit.
so bad. You're right. I'm not so bad, man. I'm not so bad, man.
Fresh white light coming from my black hole. Feel like back on me on the banyan. One measure out what we wanna make hell. Reach out my hand, material flash. Fresh seashells, that's original cash. That's from diamonds in my head.
This is like my favorite song from this album. Alright. I want to just watch more, but we will get back to the video.
You better go down and get a carry permit. You go down and get your 380 or 9mm or whatever else you want to carry. You go to your training sessions now while it's still available and learn how to defend yourself.
I'm all for people knowing how to use guns responsibly. I'm fine with that element of this.
That's what liberty's about. That's what freedom is about.
That's not how I think of freedom or liberty. It's like being allowed to defend yourself with a gun. I feel like it has more to do with like people not telling you what to do.
It's not only you thinking that the police are going to come to your house to help you. Why don't you learn to help yourself?
Because there's laws against that, Jim. Also, he doesn't... Hey, if you want to have a gun for self-defense in case somebody breaks into your house, fine. That will probably never, ever matter. So, who cares? You are almost certainly never going to have a break-in. Jim would stretch the definition of self-defense to be, you might even say, offensive, preventative, right? He doesn't want you to just have a gun so that you can defend your home if, God forbid, there's a break-in. He wants you to have a gun and use it against people that are not white.
Stop being
What good does it do him if everybody has guns and nobody gets their houses broken into? That's not the point. The point is to kill black people.
a couch potato. Put your iPod down for a few hours. Go get yourself a good handgun. Go to
It's 2016 and he's finally learned about iPods.
a training class to learn how to use and shoot it. To protect you and your babies and your children, your husband, or your wife, or whatever.
Ah, the beautiful children and babies.
The globalists and the Jewish international finance have worked for decades to divide America.
Huh.
They must be rejoicing at the media cycle has switched from the lies of crooked Hillary and the clear evidence that the FBI put forth that she would lose her security clearance if still the Secretary of State. How about the big bank, the HSBC Bank? How about the director of the FBI now? Who's the director of the FBI? Did you know that he was with that bank at one time and covered up all the fraud in the 2008 banking scandal?
Jim Comey, the guy many people think cost Hillary the election? You're saying that he is a friend to Hillary? Interesting. Interesting opinion.
And the funneling of millions of dollars that he was aware of into the Clinton Money Foundation? Well, you know it now, don't you?
Jim sounds like he's about to come.
What better a diversion than starting a race conflict? Obama would never support community policing, but will do everything imaginable to federalize law enforcement. Forget about genuine peacekeeping. It is time for the establishment to write the script to keep the public away from the most crucial issues in this election cycle. So what can be learned from the tragic event in Dallas? How about some precedent-setting legal action against Obama?
Larry Klayman, a classic right-wing crank. He has been on InfoWars many times.
Like one just filed by Larry Klayman. Before you just
What I mean by that is not somebody to be taken seriously, Larry Klayman. Who cares what Larry Klayman says? He is a known moron.
dismiss such an approach, the gatekeepers and the control divide and
Oh
conquer.
shit, I think Larry Klayman just tuned in and heard me badmouth him and then stopped watching. Sorry, Larry.
Culture will continue to subvert the true causes of this failed society. Obama has garnered his role as destroyer-in-chief during his 7+ years in office. Since meaningful political pushback has never been demonstrated by the loyal opposition.
Okay, so the idea here is that during Obama's 2 terms, the Republicans, they basically never pushed back on anything he wanted to do. They just fell in line. I wonder if Obama would characterize his working relationship with the Republican Party during his 2 terms as productive.
And the cosmos
I don't wonder that, I know. I'm just being facetious.
public is so afraid of being called a racist. The problem of expanding the self-induced plantation just worsens. So who are the haters, huh? Who are the troublemakers? Who are the haters? The
I bet it's not white people. I'm just predicting that it is not white people.
haters are the black
What do you know?
black movement, community movement, whatever they call themselves out there, that are shooting police officers. And by the way, the shooter and the killer of our police down in Dallas, did you know that he was a member of the Philadelphia Black Lives Matter movement? Did you know that? Do you know he was tied into Louis Farrakhan, that nutty Muslim that says they should have shot more white cops?
I mean, both of those things may be true. He could have been a radical black activist who bought into Nation of Islam shit. You know? Not something to understand is not everybody affiliated with your movement is going to be aligned with you ideologically. The Black Lives Matter movement is a big tent, right? The idea is we believe that black lives are as important as white lives, and we should, in society, act like we believe that, right? We should try to make it look like that's what we believe, because currently it does not appear that black lives matter as much as white lives. Okay, that is the general message of Black Lives Matter. So pretty much anybody can say, yeah, I believe that. You could be a communist, you could be a capitalist, you could be Jewish, you could be white, you could be black, you could be Muslim, you could be whatever, right? If you believe that black lives are precious and that they're just as precious as white lives, and we should care about how black people seem to be being oppressed, you can be in the club, okay? You could be part of the movement. But you could be a part of the Nation of Islam and also believe that. You could be a black Israelite and believe that, right? There are all kinds of things you could believe and still also think that Black Lives Matter. So the idea that this guy liked Farrakhan and also had posted the hashtag Black Lives Matter or had been to a rally or something is, again, see here, okay, does every Trump supporter share in the violence of the violent Trump supporters? Or are we supposed to not talk about, they're not really, they're not real patriots, right? They're just because they went to a couple rallies and posted MAGA on their Twitter doesn't mean they're a Trump person, right? Because we disavow them. Well, I would imagine the Black Lives Matter people probably disavowed that guy if it mattered and if they ever heard about it. I'm just, it is only one way, right? It's only one way. It only matters one direction.
Did you know the shooter was part of them organizations that the news never told you about?
Well, again, I would also just say proof. Does he have a membership card? Right? Is he on their rolls as a dues paying member?
Well, you just heard it now, didn't you? Anarchy.
Jim genuinely was part of the Aryan nations. So, okay.
Premeditated murder. When the Dallas police sent a robot to neutralize Micah Johnson, the bomb used set the latest escalation in the breakdown of civilization. Civil society is at war. We are at war in America, whether you like it or not. But you need to understand who the actual enemy is. The designed and manipulated distort just hastens permanent martial law. We all lose under this scenario. Only an authentic national revival will save the soul of the nation. Wake up. Time is short, and the political tribulation is upon us. Obama followers, most of all, need a fundamental attitude adjustment. By Sattar on July 12, 2016.
By who?
So
I
you
think
can
that's by
see
Sartre.
There's a lot of things taking place.
Which is just a pseudonym for some white supremacist.
I'm laying it on the line. I don't have a lot of time to put up with your foolishness. Those who want to question what I'm talking
That's true, because he only has 2 more years to live. Thank fuck.
about. If you're questioning, if any of you are questioning what I'm talking about right now, you're about 2 steps higher than a toad pole. What I want to question what I'm talking about. If you're questioning, if any of you are questioning what I'm talking about right now, you're about 2 steps higher than a toad pole in intelligence. Do you understand me? Your country's in big trouble, America. You better arm yourself to the teeth, and you better know that your main enemy at this time sits right in the White House. And you've got another one with the Democratic Communist Party by the name of Hillary Clinton, who's going to even be worse than he is, because they're both trained by the same communist, Saul Alinsky, out of Chicago. So what do we say? You identify your enemy. It isn't Jew, it's Edom Esau, is modern Jew.
This
You see
again.
that? You know, the Jews that you call Jews, they're not Hebrews or Israelites, they're liars. They're Edom Esau.
They're
They
liars.
even put it in their 1925 Jewish encyclopedia.
Time for me to watch some soccer
Volume
until he's
5,
done
page
with this.
41. So the Edomites, who are called Jews today, are demon seed Canaanites of Edomia. They are not of Israel the man or his son Judah. And the Jewish Almanac of 1980, page 3, all right, says, strictly speaking, it is incorrect to call an ancient Israelite a Jew, or to call a contemporary Jew of today an Israelite or a Hebrew, because the Jews know they are frauds. And then Rabbi Stephen...
He has used all of these quotes before. We have talked about them all before. And it is... this one is true. I believe that this actually was real, but the other ones are made up.
Wise, the late Rabbi Stephen Wise, the most powerful rabbi at the time in America, said,
That's purely
"Some call
made
it
up.
communism, but I call it Judaism." In other words, Judaism is communism. Karl Marx's real name was Moses Mordecai Levy. His grandfather was a Jew. Anti-communism is anti-Semitism. To be an anti-communist is to be anti-Jewish, says the Jewish Voice in July and August of 1941. So the Edomite Jews, the people you call Jews today, Edomite, began to call themselves Hebrews and Israelites in 1860. Encyclopedia Judaicea, 1971, volume 10.23. There was no such thing as the Jews of today being called Hebrews or Israelites until 1860, when they started to turn and change the teachings in which you call the Bible and in your churches.
I have no idea what he's talking about. This is just
They
bullshit.
are Edom Esau. They are Turco-Mongolian mongrels. They are not white. They're
Once again, a reminder that just because some Jewish people might seem to be white to you, they're not white. Not everybody that looks white is white, but white skin is important. But even if you look white, you might not be white. So that's what he's saying.
your enemy, the most hated enemy. So then we go right away and we get down to Dave Hodges on the Common Sense Show, freeing America one enslaved mind at a time.
Wow. I bet this guy
Here you
is
got
awesome.
a big picture of all the morons there in the Black Lives Matter movement.
I see a Trump flag.
Over 2 years ago, Dave Hodges said, I wrote an article on the growing perception of police brutality which seemed to have racial overtones at that time. I have undeniably called for the prosecution of police officers who engage in police brutality. In other articles, I have called for an end to the practice in which the police are allowed to investigate themselves in
Spare me the allegations of racism when I am racist.
regards to allegations of police brutality. The Common Sense Show will never support any act of police brutality. Therefore, spare me the allegations of racism with regards to the following. The real racist belongs to the mainstream Jewish-controlled media. When a white or Hispanic person dies a suspicious death in police custody, the media ignores the event as if it didn't happen. Don't white lives matter? Doesn't
Salam Sharif. Assalamu alaikum.
Latino lives matter? Don't Asian lives matter? But from the Jewish-controlled media
It's going to be shocking. I'm sure you're going to be shocked to hear this, but he's being racist again.
perspective, we need to be asking, why are black lives the only lives that matter when it comes to an alleged police brutality? Former
A very, very common argument for racist people to make. Why don't white lives matter? What about all lives? Don't all lives matter? Yes, we all can agree that all lives matter. The problem that we have in America specifically, and also, other imperialist countries, England, France, the problem is that a lot of the time black people are treated specifically as if their lives are less important than anybody else. Yes, white people's lives matter, Hispanic people's lives matter, Afghani people's lives matter. All of that is true. But black people historically in this country have been the target of specific crime, violence, oppression, enslavement, etc. There is a reason why black people feel specifically as if they have been targeted, because they have. White people, Hispanic people are also being targeted by the police, but we have had a different relationship with Hispanic people in this country. They were not slaves to us. This is not complicated, but it gets people don't want to hear you talk about it, right? Because it's too factual.
cop and author Peter Moskos cites statistics which demonstrate that more whites are killed by cops than blacks. From a raw statistic perspective, Moskos is correct. However, when
This is pretty funny because this actually is going against what a lot of people say. Because people will say, well, okay, yeah, black people get killed by the police, but more white people get killed by cops than black people in terms of numbers, right? So it's not racist, right? Because more white people are killed than black people. But if you look at population statistics, black people in America are less than 15% of the population. So you would assume if it was being applied evenly, they would make up 15%. or so of the police killings of non-police. It is way higher than that. And this points it out. Black people are more than 3 times more likely to be killed by police than white people are. It's not about numbers, it's about likelihood, right? It's about probability. Anyway, that doesn't really work for him. That doesn't really make the point he wants to make. And I wonder if he is going to notice that.
Accounts for the fact that whites comprise about most of the nation's population.
True.
The applied statistics tell us that blacks are about 3 times more likely to be killed by whites. However,
True.
this disparity, as tragic as it is, does not excuse the racist media for failing to cover all races who are victims of police brutality. The data clearly tells us that what have is not totally a total
Can't read.
racial problem. It is police enforcement issue. However, there is another.
Well, you are free to make your own choices. I've tried to be pretty clear about what I believe, and what I think you should do is ask questions and keep asking questions before you make any big decisions. But if you keep asking questions and you come to the conclusion that it is hard to believe that God is real, that's an understandable thing as well.
Statistic that nobody has even bothered to cover. For every 10,000 arrests of blacks, how many are victims of police brutality?
Now, you'll notice this says arrests. Philando Castile, just to name one, Philando Castile was not arrested. He was at a traffic stop. They were asking for his identification or something. He was sitting in the car with his wife and daughter, and they shot him in his car. He wasn't arrested. So this doesn't matter, right? Because this says 10,000 arrests. My friend Botham, who got shot in his own apartment, he was never arrested. So he doesn't count in this victims of police brutality, right? Because this is dealing with arrest numbers. A lot of people who are killed by police were not arrested. They were just killed. So this is not necessarily representing things accurately or fairly. I'm just going to make that point now when we see where it goes.
A comparative analysis of these numbers among all people arrested by race would tell America if police brutality is disproportionately aimed at black.
Also, he doesn't even answer the question. Because I bet you could find an answer to this question if you wanted to. And I bet you could find out. Right? But he is saying, hey, listen. Yes, black people are way more likely to be killed by cops than white people are. That's true. But what about if you look at the numbers and say every 10,000 arrests, how many of them are victims of brutality? Until somebody asks that question and does research, I'm not going to do it. But until somebody does it, we can't know. We just have to kind of throw our hands up and say, it's probably not racism. But it is racism. And as I pointed out, many victims of police brutality are never arrested. They're just brutalized or killed. And they're not arrested. So they would not figure into these numbers.
Until this question is asked, researched and answered, claims of racism levied toward police departments is totally unproven. The same question regarding police brutality needs to be asked for every other racial group, and it is not, because Fox News, CNN, CBC, etc. are fermenting a race.
The right word there would be fomenting, not fermenting, but whatever, minor corrections.
War, because it is what the owners of the 6 corporations that own 98% of the media want, and they are all owned by Jews.
There you go. See, the article doesn't say that they're owned by Jews. Jim just knows that the article is implying that they're owned by Jews. Sometimes Jim is very racist, right? He is racist in front of you. He says it. He says it's the Jews. He says he hates black people. Most people don't say it like that. They hide. They hide their racism behind other things, like talking about globalists or bankers or elites. And look, I understand that you feel like you're going to get the same answers, and maybe you are, but I would still say it's a good idea to ask people that you haven't asked, because they might have other ideas. They might not convince you, but they still might have an opinion on who God is, why the world is the way it is, that you haven't heard yet. I want it to be very clear that I will not think that you are cooler or better if you stop believing in God. I think you should take seriously what you choose to believe and how you want to live your life. And if you think that you want to be religious, I am fine with that. And if you think you don't want to be religious, I'm fine with that. I don't think that it's better for you to choose to be like me, okay? I just make your own decisions. I am not here to tell you what you need to choose. I'm just here to tell you to ask questions and keep asking questions until you're satisfied with the answers you're getting.
Major stockholders. So why does Clinton and Obama and Loretta Lynch and the rest of the criminal elite want a race war?
They don't.
I should really ask more challenging questions, because the answer to the following question is ubiquitous.
Ubiquitous.
Growing racial tensions with the Black Lives Matter, George Soros, the Jew funder, and the antagonist.
They love to talk about George Soros, and they can never prove that he is involved in these causes at all. They just blame him because he has a lot of money and he happens to be Jewish. You know who has more money than George Soros? Elon Musk. They don't ever seem to talk about his Nazi leanings, weirdly.
A race war culminating in martial law solves a lot of problems for the criminal elite. One, it provides a distraction from Hillary Clinton's serial criminality, so the criminal elite can get their henchmen in the Oval Office so that they continue with the deconstruction of the nation's economy, political structure, and cultural values. And number two, a helter-skelter summer prevents people from uniting against the real enemy. Are you
Shocker.
tuned in on that?
The bankers.
The bankers who have plundered our national economy through free trade agreements, getting the government to get the people to assume the credit swap derivatives debt. For black people who wonder why there are so few jobs for black youth, look at what I wrote in the previous sentence. Therein lies the answer. We have 101 million working age adults in this country not working full time, as opposed to 97 million who are working. 101 million adults not working.
Not working full time. You don't necessarily get to decide if you are a full-time employee. Your employer decides when they hire you how many hours they're going to give you. If you don't reach a certain threshold of hours, you're not considered full-time. It does not mean that you don't have a job. It just means you are working less than 35 hours a week, which that's considered less than full-time in America. He can't read. It's important to remind everybody. He cannot read. He does not understand what he reads, because this says not working full-time, and he just takes that and says not working. That's not true. If there were 100 million people in America not working, it would be the biggest story in the world. Okay, this is full-time work, which is, you would like to see more people with full-time work. Absolutely. I would love to see rules get changed. So the reason a lot of employers don't want to give you full-time status is because they don't want to have to pay for insurance. That is why. If they give you more than a certain number of hours in a week, they are responsible for some benefits. And so they don't want to do that, and so they just hire you as a part-time worker. That's not your fault. That's the fault of the system, right? That sort of thing is rewarded. If you want to change that, then you need to change the system that rewards employers for hiring people to work less than full-time hours. That is the solution. But I bet that's not the solution that Jim sees. For some reason, I'm feeling like we might be coming to different conclusions here.
Only 97 million are. Why? Because most of our jobs have been shipped overseas by greedy and treasonous corporations under the auspices of Benedict Arnold Congress. It is not a white conspiracy. It's a banking conspiracy. And I'll throw Jew in on that.
Of course you
The
will.
Federal Reserve Private Center.
Again, he doesn't need to say Jew. This guy that is writing this, because this Jim is reading something somebody else wrote. The guy who wrote this, he means Jew. Okay? He is implying Jews are the problem. He just isn't saying it because the people who read this are either smart enough to get it or they would be uncomfortable if he was outright blaming it on the Jews. But Jim knows that he means the Jews are responsible, and so he's just going to be explicit about it.
Central Jewish Bank. It is a Jewish banking conspiracy being levied against people of all races in America. You got the Jew George Soros.
See?
You got the Jew David Rockefeller. And every member of Congress and the Senate and President Obama and Hillary Clinton are the enemy of all middle-class Americans or those who aspire to be middle class.
Well, I am happy that Shad feels comfortable with her faith. I hope that it inspires her to treat people with kindness and respect and to, be thoughtful and considerate and generous. I don't care if she believes in God or not. I hope that her belief in God encourages her to be kind and treat people with respect. That's what I hope. She doesn't have to question her faith. She can if she wants to, but she doesn't have to. She doesn't have to agree with me. She doesn't have to agree with you. And if she decides later that she does want to ask some questions, she can. But all I really care about is how are you living your life? What are you doing in life because of your religion? Are you treating people well, or are you treating people with disrespect? And, that's what matters to me. It is okay for Shad to feel like she is really happy with what she believes and that she has a connection that she feels is, really meaningful.
And the media fills black people's minds with this pseudo-racist crap.
Pseudo.
And some are believing Wolf Karl Marx Blitzer interpretation of events. When was the last time that CNN reported on black?
Classic racist argument. What about black on black crime? I'm not being racist. What about they do it to themselves? Well, the real issue, again, I have said this on this stream, but the real issue is poverty. It's really, when you look at crimes committed by the lower classes and then you map that onto where that happens, that is that's the thing. I know there are people who have different interpretations of what jihad means, right? Whether you are supposed to be fighting like a spiritual and convincing people that the Islam is the right religion to follow. And there are some people who believe that you need to do that physically. And I certainly would oppose the people who think you need to convert other people to religion by force or just kill them if they don't convert. I would oppose that, and I don't care what religion is doing it. Muslim, Hindu, Christian, Jewish, Buddhist, whoever, I don't care. If you believe that you need to forcefully convert other people to your religion, I don't support that. But I know that a lot of Muslims don't believe that you need to use force. You just need to study the Quran with people and show them the light, right? So, but I will say a lot of Americans believe that all Muslims think that they need to do physical war and kill infidels. That some people do. but a lot of Christians believe that we should do war and kill the infidels too. So, and we don't. It's a problem across cultures. It's not unique to one religion.
Crime. The answer is they never have, even through the FBI, maintains these statistics. And of all the crimes committed, black on black accounts from the most prevalent crime statistics in our society. And this is not a matter of race. It's a factor of economics.
That's true.
And why are black people disproportionately poor versus white?
Slavery and racism and white supremacy and laws keeping black people from having good jobs. That's why.
I answer that question when I identify the bankers, Jew bankers, the private central bank, and politicians who are the enemy of all Americans. If young black youth keep listening to the distorted messages in the media, let me tell you where this is headed. There will be a widespread rioting. People are going to die. Martial law is going to be imposed, and the Black Lives Matter movement will not be protesting any longer.
This article is from 2016. This did not happen. The UN, even during 2020, when there were some pretty high level protests, even some that developed into riots, they never sent the UN to keep the peace. Like, this is ridiculous.
And the majority of martial law occupiers...
It's what we call fear mongering, which is you bring up a thing to make people afraid, and then you try to convince them that it's going to happen. And so they need to be really afraid. And they need to listen to you specifically because you know what's happening, right?
will be foreign and wearing United Nations blue helmets. And they are not going to give a damn about racial civil rights issues because the civil rights of all Americans will be gone. As the United Nations ushers in the New World Order in which all Americans, black, white, brown, etc., will be on the endangered species list, as well as all state troopers, sheriff's deputies, and city police.
Yeah, you got to throw in our beautiful cops there because he's been talking about them a lot in this video. He's really been cramming the boot down his throat. It is like this deep into his esophagus, the boot, because he wants to wear the boot. That's the thing. He doesn't really care about cops. Sometimes it's beneficial to him to say, we love our cops, we support our beautiful police, our beautiful white police, because they are oppressing the people that we like to have oppressed, and because every once in a while a black person kills a cop and it gives us an opportunity to be very righteous and racist. So we love the cops. Other times we hate the cops and you have to take up guns to protect yourself against the overreach, right? A very much, very ideological. Are the cops targeting black people? We're on board. Are the cops targeting leftists and communists? We're on board. Are the cops targeting white supremacist groups, neo-Nazi groups, separatist groups, right? Oh, are they taking away children from people who are abusing them? Well, that we can't stand for. You need to take up your arms and protect your household. It's not about the law. It has nothing to do with the law. It has everything to do with who and how it is enforced. And Jim wants to be enforcing it. He wants to be deputized so that he can enforce the law on the people that he thinks it needs to be enforced on. He wants to wear the boot, right? It is not that he respects the boot. It's that he wants to be the one wearing it. And sometimes it is in his best interest to support the boot. I do not support oppression of people by police or military. And not only do I not support that, I do not want to be in charge of doing it myself. That would not make me feel better. I've talked about this before, but one of the things that the Democrats, maybe they understand it, they don't care, but maybe they do get it. The problem a lot of people have is not so much the people who are in charge. It's not, right? The child crushing machine. The problem is not the person running the child crushing machine is racist. We need to get them out so that we can replace them with a woke person who can push the button on the child crushing machine, right? The problem I have, and the problem a lot of leftists have, is not who's in charge, it's the system that is being perpetuated. When you are continuing to uphold this system, whether you're woke or not, that's the problem. The problem is the system, not the people who are pushing the buttons. Obviously, I would like to have good people pushing buttons, making good things happen. But it's not really about that. It is about changing the system fundamentally and not just replacing the people in slacks. Oh, now we have a woman who's in there pushing buttons. That's better. Right? Everybody has seen this comic. I'm going to go ahead and pull it up just because I think it makes my point very effectively. A picture's worth 1,000 words, as they say. I feel like this says what I am trying to say. I'll make it big just so you can read it in case it's too small. I don't like this. I don't really enjoy pointing at this and saying this is what the Democrats are basically doing, right? Oh, hey, good news. We had Obama. We had a black president, and he was dropping drone bombs on people in Yemen and Syria and bombing weddings and shit. Was it better because the guy doing it was black? Was it better if you lived in Yemen? I don't think so. I don't think they gave a shit who was doing it. The problem is it was happening. Anyway, these people do not care, right? He has no actual principles other than he should be the one who gets to oppress his enemies. And his enemies are worthy of oppressing. That's all. Sharif, like I said, I think that the best thing for you to do is to stay curious and ask questions about what you believe, what you think you believe, what people are telling you you should believe, what you learn in school, what people in your mosque say, what people that you know, the other people in your life who are religious, what they say. You should ask questions. You don't have to make any decisions right now. You don't have to know, You are still young. You are still learning. You're still figuring out how to look at the world and how to understand the world. Just keep asking questions. And if you don't get a good answer, go ask somebody else. And if they don't give you a good answer, go ask somebody else. And eventually, you will ask so many people that you will either get a good answer or you will come to the conclusion that nobody has a good answer for you. And at that point, maybe you make other decisions, right? That's how I would approach interrogating religion, personally. When did the earthquake hit? I mean, was this like this week or just there was a big earthquake in Egypt?
I state all of this for one reason, and one reason only. The actions of the Jew George Soros's Black Lives Matter organization.
I've said this a couple times, but I just want to remind you all again, one more time. This does not say Jew George Soros. This just says George Soros because the person writing this is a coded anti-Semite. Jim knows that this means Jew, and he just goes ahead and says it.
Are rehabensible,
editorializing.
And this organization should be considered as a domestic terror organization. To those who would label me a racist, I refer you to the opening paragraphs of this article in which I have been an outspoken critic of alleged police brutality.
That is what we call a weak denial. Oh man, we'll take a look. Wow, 6.0. So it occurred, what, off the shore of Crete? That's a pretty sizable earthquake. 6.3. Do you know anything about this website, ahram.org? 421 kilometers south of the coast of Marsa Matruh. Residents in both Cairo and Alexandria reported feeling the tremor. Okay, no casualties or material damage. That's good. It's always scary. I was in California during a sizable earthquake that we barely felt where I was, but it's scary to just think, man, I could be standing here and then all of a sudden the building could collapse around me. It is a stressful thing, but I'm fortunate that during my time in California, I was never impacted by an earthquake or a wildfire.
Now, what is it going to come down to? Well, it's going to come down to this. The people are going to have to learn that freedom is not free. Liberty is not free. Those who created this great republic were of all white European culture and background.
Oh, all except for the slaves. I mean, if you want to say the men who signed the Declaration of Independence, sure, they were all white. That's kind of how it worked back then. But the people who built this country, black people, Chinese immigrants built a lot of this country and were horribly treated. Mexican immigrants built a lot of this country and were horribly treated. Yeah, Mexican people built part of the country that we just then took, right? Because Texas. Anyway, this is ridiculous. It's just beyond stupid.
They fought for it. They died for it. They bled for it. They suffered for it. But they did it. And now, for those of you who think you just deserve it because you live here, you live in a little fantasy world on your iPod, let me tell you. And what's this little game that they're all playing now to go find? It's a Pogo or whatever.
Pokemon Go, I believe. Jim has learned about Pokemon Go. I actually still play Pokemon Go. Is one of the few things I have stuck to for, at this point, close to a decade. Well, I'm sorry that you're not feeling very good, Sharif. I know it's kind of scary when you start thinking about these things and thinking about the world. It's a big, scary place, and there are a lot of scary things that can happen. Most likely, they're not going to happen to you, but that doesn't really make you not be concerned. So, get some sleep. Things usually look better in the morning. We will talk to you later.
It is. Pokemon. Yeah, you're all playing your little Pokemon game here,
Pokemon, go to the polls.
aren't you? While your nation is crumbling at your feet. You know why? Because you don't want the responsibility. Do you know why you don't want the responsibility? Because you're a coward.
Oh, damn, he got me. That's me. I'm a coward.
You are a true coward. You're a coward if you cannot provide protection for you, your wife, your
I feel like I'm all right.
property, your babies, your children, your neighbors, your state, to help the police when
Oh my God, to help the police. Oh, I really, unimaginable. To help the police. Fuck off.
needed. You're a true coward. You're not a man. You're a coward. That's
I don't need a gun because I am a real man. I can protect myself with my own strength, Jim. Because I spent a lot of time at the gym getting big and strong, and now I can take care of my own shit. I don't need a gun because I don't have a small penis.
how you spell men of that type of, that I described. Men is spelled C-O-W-A-R-D on what I have just put up.
Oh wow, really got
You don't
he
like
has
it? That's tough.
he has
I'm
got
giving
all
it
of
to you
our
straight.
asses.
I'm giving you what they used to say, the straight skinny, all right? Here you got the white northern wolf, right here. and he is white, and he's got them blue eyes. Whether
Okay.
blue or brown, but he's a white wolf.
Okay, and a wolf is not a human.
And this is a poem I'd like to share with you in Europe, the white European nations, and across the United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, the whites that are still in bondage and being killed in Zimbabwe,
Wow.
ex-Rhodesia,
Wow.
France, all the white nations, Britain and all. They say that we're racist as they spit upon the ground, but
Oh, the northern wolf. God, I bet this is real shit. I wonder who wrote this. The Rime of the Viking Path? Songofamerica.net? Is this maybe? I don't know.
it was their hate for Whitey. They shot the Dallas cops down. They say that we're the devil of the very world we built.
This is some dreadful shit right here.
And then attempt to shame us with the white privilege and guilt. Muslims, imams proudly
Nope.
preach for the mass rape of our women. Black social leaders call out for the slaughter of our children. These things are not imagined.
They are.
They are happening right now, with most of us in shock and
This is really written by a bang up poet, I gotta say. High quality writing here.
simply asking how. How is it that it's come to this? Where have our leaders been? Their failure to protect us has been their gravest sin. So now the white folk must rise up. Take
Jesus.
our fate into our hands. Destroy the leftist communist establishment.
He just threw in communist in there. It seems like it's. Nope. By Imrachova. Here it is. Found it. Wow. They're even using the Nazi font. Holy Christ. Sonnenrad. Jesus fucking Christ. 14 words? Oh my God. I mean, like, look, here's the thing. If you don't understand what this website is about and who the people that read it are, you are incredibly, incredibly sheltered. Like, I don't really know how else to put it. This is not subtle. Okay, holy Christ. This is one of the worst things he has, like,
Now
linked
we
to.
must seize command. We will not go silent into the night.
Also, this is written by a literal Nazi, and he still doesn't feel like it's on the nose enough. He's got to throw in communist in there.
Like sheep sent to their slaughter, the northern white wolves will show his might to protect our sons and daughters. Copywritten by Carlotta Imrichiova of 2016 wrote the poem. Would you like to put that picture up one more time, please? Here's your northern white wolf, who live in the northern latitudes of white Europe, of Finland and Sweden and Denmark.
And again, it's a wolf. It is not a human. There is no indication that wolves recognize color.
The United States of America and Canada, all right, and the other nations, and white Ukraine, white Russia. I will say this in the name of Yahweh the Christ. It is here and it is upon us. And if you don't get your head straight, if you do not get your head straight about what's taking place today, you are in deep doo-doo. I would like to say to you at this time that donations are greatly appreciated and needed for the continuation of these truthful presentations. I need your help. I'm trying to get this truth out, and it is getting out all over the world. I need your help. It is greatly appreciated and needed. Yes, and
Give me money so that I can further spread these Nazi ideas. Please, that's what I would like.
anarchy today in the USA. You can include all the white nations of the world. I've already told you who they are. I'm Dr. James P. Wickstrom, P.O. Box 308, Linwood, Michigan 48634, US of A. Yes, Arcodius on YouTube is where you're probably watching this, many of you. Arcodeaus, and then there's Arcodius Reloaded. Another word, I missed it. 2 words, Reloaded, on YouTube. My blog site is www.jameswickstrom.com. Go there and listen to my live radio broadcast for a month. My email is drjameswickstrom@gmail.com. You can go to Arcodius. I have a PayPal there. You can send me something on PayPal to give me a hand, all right? It's Saturday, July 16, 2016. I want to thank you again for your hospitality, for allowing me into your living rooms, onto your laptop computers, wherever you are, on your iPods,
Fuck you.
or wherever. We are in real dire straits at this time. Don't think negative of the police who protect you, the troopers and the sheriff's deputies. And the negative of the police who protect you, the troopers and the sheriff's deputies and the city corporation police are out there. They are keeping the wolves off your back. Corporation police are out there. They are keeping the wolves off your back. The Communist Obama and the Communist Democratic Party of the United States, Black Lives Matter movement, and the rest of their ungle-bungle, whatever groups you want to call them, the new Black Panther Party or whatever, the only intent they want to do is obey Obama and the Communist Democratic Party to create civil war and anarchy in the United States of America, and the same is true to the other white nations of the world. Thank you very much for your hospitality and time of staying with me. Make as many copies of this as you would like and disperse it to all the police officers and agencies you can, as well as other people that you know.
Hey, cops, we're on your side. Don't come after us. We want to do what you want to do, which is kill black people. Don't police us. We're with you guys. We want to just give us guns and let us go kill black people. We don't want to fight you. We want to fight with you against the black people and the Jewish people. That's what we want. You know, fuck off.
Are concerned. Have a very nice day, and Yahweh the Christ be with all of you.
Okay, well, that was it. I think that we're pretty much good on this for the day. I will put on a couple more songs until it's time to call it. But I'm about ready to wrap it. So we got through this video. Boy, did this video suck. Gross. All right. Last one, and we're wrapping it up. All right. That's it for